Right, so now we're going to look at something called coterminal angles. And don't know if this is new or not, but regardless, we need to be aware of coterminal angles this year. So these are angles in standard position that have the same terminal arm. So I'll let that linger with you in a moment, and it's easier to look at an example to explain what a coterminal angle is, so that's what we'll do. So we're going to find a coterminal angle to 300 degrees. So the first thing we're going to notice is where 300 degrees is. So if we start in the positive x-axis and rotate all the way around to 300 degrees, and we get around here. That's 300 degrees. There is another way to get to that same terminal arm. The 300 degrees is the way we'd expect. We would start there and rotate counterclockwise 300 degrees. But there is another way that we could get there, and we could just start here and go backwards. So for starters, that angle has to be 60 degrees, right? Because it's 360 degrees for a full rotation, and if we've rotated 300 degrees, that means there's another 60 left over. But because we're going the opposite direction, we would call this negative 60 degrees. And we would call this a coterminal angle. So there's one possibility of how to get to the same terminal arm, but go a different route. Now, there's another way I could have gotten there. And I'll redraw the angle down here. Draw the angle down here. Another way to get there is to start here, rotate around, but go past it and rotate a full 360 degrees, then keep going, and I end up there. So I end up at the same spot, but I took a much longer route to get there. That also would be a coterminal angle. And remember, we're talking a lot more about rotations as opposed to angles and triangles and things like that. So this could be like a full rotation plus more, but we would end up in the same spot. Think about a Ferris wheel. If you're talking about where a Ferris wheel is, it's there on the first rotation. And if you take a full rotation, you end up at the exact same spot. You just did a full rotation and then got there. So how much would that be? Well, we know a full rotation is 360 degrees. That gets us to that starting point again. And then we add the other 300 that we went on to, and we would get a coterminal angle of 660 degrees. So this red angle here is 660 degrees. It's also a coterminal angle to 300. And you can imagine you can rotate a whole bunch of ways and different times, and you could get much different coterminal angles. You could have even used the blue one, gone backwards 360 degrees, and then an extra 60 degrees and got another coterminal angle. So now let's look at B, 405 degrees. So already that's a pretty big angle. So I'm going to draw this guy in blue. So 405 degrees is already bigger than a full rotation. And in fact, how much bigger is it? Well, 405 minus 360 is 45 degrees. So I already know it's 45 degrees past 360. So if I drew that, I would go like this, go full rotation, there's 360 plus an extra 45. And guess what? I'm in quadrant 1 again. This is 405 degrees. If I was looking for a coterminal angle, well, there is a shorter way to get to the same spot. Just go straight there. And I know that that here is a coterminal angle of 45. So a coterminal angle doesn't have to be bigger. It can be smaller. It's just another way to get to the same terminal arm. This is probably the bigger application of coterminal angles, taking a large angle and saying, I don't want to work with that large angle, I'd rather work with a coterminal angle because it's in the same spot. And you can imagine it's easier to work with 45 degrees than it is with 405 degrees. Now if we're looking for other ways, more coterminal angles in the same spot, well, I could have rotated backwards. If I know that this is 45, then this one rotating backwards would be 315, except it would be negative 315 degrees. There's another coterminal angle. And in fact, I could have rotated all the way around. I could have started here, rotated around once, and then around again, and that would get me another coterminal angle. Obviously much bigger. I think that one you rotate around is 360 degrees plus another 315, and we end up with negative 600 and what would this be? It'd be negative 360 plus another negative 310, and that would be negative 670 degrees is another coterminal angle. Or I could have done a full rotation, like I could have done a couple rotations in the forward direction and get another one, which would be like 760 degrees. There's lots of coterminal angles. And this last one I'm actually going to leave for now for the video. I'd rather be in front of you to talk about this last example. So I'll save for later. And if you do see me in person and I haven't done this example, make sure you remind me about this because it'd be worth talking about.